What if we are not the advanced ones? How far ahead can alien civilization be? Civilizations beyond Type 3. Imagine somewhere in the Milky Way, there is a civilization that began millions of years before humanity. While our ancestors were still learning to control fire, they may have already been looking toward the stars. While humanity was building its first cities, they may have been building machines capable of traveling between planets. And while we are only beginning to understand our own planet, they may already understand their entire star system. Now imagine something even more disturbing. What if they are not thousands of years ahead of us? What if they are millions of years ahead? What would a civilization that old even look like? Would they still live on planets? Would they still use biological bodies? Could they control the energy of an entire star? Could they manipulate entire solar systems? And at the extreme end of the scale, could a civilization become powerful enough to influence an entire galaxy? These questions sound like science fiction, but there is a scientific framework designed to ask exactly this. It is called the Kardashev scale. And once you understand it, you may never look at the universe the same way again. In 1964, Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev proposed a fascinating idea. Instead of asking how intelligent a civilization was, he asked something much simpler. How much energy can it control? The idea was that technological civilizations might become increasingly capable of capturing and using energy. And that gave us three hypothetical levels: Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. The higher the civilization climbs, the larger the scale of its technological influence becomes. A Type 1 civilization will control energy on the scale of its entire planet. Type 2 would control the energy of its star. And Type 3 would operate on the scale of an entire galaxy. At first, this sounds almost impossible, but here's the disturbing part. The universe has existed for more than 13 billion years. Human civilization has existed for only a tiny fraction of that time. So if technological civilizations can survive for millions or even billions of years, there is no obvious reason they would have to stop at our current level. The question is, what would happen if they didn't? Type I, a planetary civilization. Type 1 will be the first truly planetary civilization. Imagine humanity reaching a point where almost every major energy source on Earth could be controlled and coordinated. Solar, wind, geothermal, nuclear, ocean energy, perhaps technologies we haven't invented yet. A Type 1 civilization would no longer think of its planet as thousands of separate systems. It would operate as one planetary technological network. Weather, energy, transportation, communication, and perhaps even the environment itself could become part of a global technological system. Now look at humanity today. We have satellites, global communications, artificial intelligence, nuclear energy, spacecraft, and enormous planetary infrastructure. But compared with the theoretical Type 1 civilization, we are still incredibly primitive. Some estimates place modern humanity somewhere below Type 1, often around 0.7 on the Kardashev scale, though this is an estimate rather than an official measurement. And that creates an interesting thought. If humanity could advance dramatically in just a few hundred years, what could another civilization accomplish? With a million-year head start, a Type 1 civilization might not look like the science fiction world we imagine. There may be no giant alien cities, no glowing skyscrapers, no fleets of spacecraft. Instead, the entire planet itself might become the machine. Imagine billions of connected devices, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, orbital infrastructure, and energy networks operating together. A civilization where the distinction between technology and environment becomes almost impossible to see. And then, something changes. They stop thinking only about their planet. They begin looking toward their star, because their planet is no longer enough. And that is where Type 2 begins. Type 2, a civilization that controls a star. Type 2 is where the scale becomes almost unimaginable. A Type 2 civilization will be capable of harnessing energy on the scale of its entire star. Think about our sun. Every second, It releases an almost incomprehensible amount of energy. Humanity currently captures only a tiny fraction of what reaches Earth. A Type 2 civilization, in theory, could capture a much larger fraction of its star's energy. One proposed method is a structure inspired by an idea known as a Dyson sphere, not necessarily a solid shell around a star, but potentially a vast collection of orbiting structures designed to collect stellar energy. Imagine looking at another solar system and discovering something strange. The star is there, but its light isn't behaving normally. Part of its energy appears to be intercepted, and the missing energy reappears as infrared radiation, not because of dust, not because of a natural process, but because something is using the star. That would be extraordinary. NASA considers Dyson like structures one possible type of technosignature, although such civilizations and structures remain hypothetical. The Dyson swarm. But a civilization doesn't necessarily need to build one gigantic shell. It could build millions or billions of individual structures orbiting its star, solar collectors, habitats, factories, computational systems, space stations, energy storage systems. Together, they could form an enormous artificial swarm. From far away, the star might still look normal, but something would be wrong. Its brightness could change, its spectrum could look unusual, and some of the energy could emerge as excess infrared radiation, the waste heat produced by a civilization using enormous amounts of energy. Astronomers can actually search for these kinds of clues. They are called technosignatures. And this is where the story stops being pure science fiction, because scientists are genuinely looking for evidence of technology beyond Earth. We just haven't confirmed one yet. Type 3, the galactic civilization. And then there is Type 3. This is where the human imagination begins to fail. A Type 3 civilization would operate on the energy scale of an entire galaxy, not one planet, not one star, an entire galaxy, hundreds of billions of stars, potentially becoming part of one enormous technological network. Imagine civilization spread across thousands, medial, or even billions of star systems, communication networks crossing the galaxy, automated probes traveling between stars, entire planetary systems transformed into industrial infrastructure, stars themselves becoming energy sources, and perhaps black holes becoming part of their technology. At this level, we would no longer be talking about a civilization that has simply mastered technology. We would be talking about something that has transformed its entire cosmic environment. What would a Type 3 alien look like? But here's where things become truly strange. Would a Type 3 civilization even have bodies? Think about humanity. Our civilization began with biological organisms, but increasingly, we are creating machines, artificial intelligence, robots, autonomous spacecraft, digital systems, computers. If this process continued for thousands or millions of years, perhaps an advanced civilization might no longer depend on biological bodies at all. Its intelligence could exist across machines, across networks, across entire planetary systems. Perhaps what we would call an alien civilization wouldn't look like an alien at all. It might be a technological system spread across space, a form of intelligence so different from biological life that we might not even recognize it. And that creates a terrifying possibility. Maybe the reason we haven't found aliens isn't because they're absent. Maybe we don't know what we're looking for. If they exist, why don't we see them? And now we arrive at one of the greatest questions in astronomy. If advanced civilizations can become this powerful, where is everybody? The universe contains an enormous number of stars. Many stars have planets. Some planets exist in environments that could potentially support life. And the universe has had billions of years for intelligent civilizations to appear. So, why do we see evidence of them? This is closely related to what is known as the Fermi paradox. If advanced civilizations should be possible, why is the universe so quiet? Maybe intelligent life is extremely rare. Maybe civilizations destroy themselves. Maybe technological civilizations don't survive long enough to become interstellar. Or perhaps advanced civilizations become so efficient that they become almost invisible. That last possibility is particularly interesting. Recent SETI discussions have questioned the assumption that civilizations must continuously expand their energy consumption. An advanced civilization might choose a quieter, more sustainable technological path, and therefore be much harder for us to detect. The great filter. And then, there's an even darker possibility. Perhaps civilizations don't usually make it very far. Perhaps somewhere between simple life and a civilization capable of spreading across a galaxy. There's a barrier, a great filter. It could be something biological, a natural catastrophe, a technological disaster, artificial intelligence, war, resource collapse, or something we haven't even imagined, maybe becoming technologically advanced. Isn't the difficult part. Maybe surviving your own technology is. And if the great filter exists, there is one terrifying question. Are we before the filter or after it? If we are after it, we may be extraordinarily rare. But if we are still before it, our greatest challenge may not be reaching the stars. It may be surviving long enough to reach them. What if they are millions of years ahead? Now imagine we detect something, not a radio message, not a spaceship, not an alien face, something much stranger, a star behaving unnaturally, a strange infrared signature, an unusual chemical atmosphere, a repeating signal, or an enormous structure that appears impossible to explain naturally. At first, scientists would not call it aliens. They would investigate. Then, they would eliminate natural explanations. And only after every ordinary explanation failed would the possibility of technology become truly interesting, because discovering extraterrestrial intelligence wouldn't simply mean aliens exist. It would mean something much bigger. It would mean we are not the oldest technological civilization in the universe. And depending on how old they were, humanity might not even be close. The most terrifying possibility, but perhaps the most terrifying possibility, isn't that an advanced civilization is watching us. It is that we might be completely irrelevant to them. Imagine an intelligence that has existed for 10 million years. Our entire recorded history would be less than a moment in its existence. Our first cities, our wars, our empires, our technology, our journey into space could all look like the earliest stages of technological development. To them, humanity might appear exactly the way ancient humans appear to us. Primitive, curious, dangerous, and still learning. And perhaps they aren't hiding. Perhaps we simply aren't advanced enough to recognize their presence. Humanity is still young. We have only recently learned how to leave our planet. We have only recently discovered thousands of worlds around other stars. And we are only beginning to search for technological signatures beyond Earth. Perhaps one day, we will discover civilization only slightly more advanced than us. Perhaps we will find something millions of years ahead. Or perhaps we will discover nothing. But there is one thought worth remembering. When we look into the night sky, we are not simply looking at distant stars. We are looking backward in time. Every star could have a story. Every planet could have a history. And somewhere, there may be a civilization whose story began long before ours. Maybe they are type 1, maybe type 2, maybe something beyond type 3. Something our current imagination doesn't even have a name for. We don't know. And that is exactly why we keep looking. We begin with the story. Then, we discover what is really behind it. This is the crystal mind,